On today's Locked On Jayhawks, new season, do or die time for KU, we preview the Jayhawks at the Mountaineers, Kansas, and West Virginia.
You are Locked On Jayhawks, your daily podcast on the Kansas Jayhawks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Derek Johnson. You can find me on Twitter at DJohnsonRadio, and you can find our show. It's called Locked On Jayhawks. Anywhere you get your podcasts, also on our YouTube page. Please like and subscribe. Please leave us a good review if you possibly could. Thank you to everybody making it your first listen every day. Thank you to everydayers catching each and every show. And thank you if you're new to the show for tuning in today. We're going to be previewing Kansas at West Virginia, start of Big 12 play for the Jayhawks. And really for both these teams, this is kind of do or die time, but an opportunity for both these teams to kind of get back in the swing of things in this one. So we're going to get into the game, top storylines coming into this one, West Virginia scouting report. We'll get to our matchups of the game, our player matchup to watch, our Hawks to soar. Maybe we'll do a little pick a prop. Hasn't been going well early in the season, which is kind of a product of the offense sputtering a bit. But we'll get into all that on today's episode of the show, which is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started today. So Kansas taking on West Virginia. This is an 11 a.m. game. This is what we're used to, right? If you know, from a Kansas perspective, you're used to those classic 11 a.m. games. This is obviously a road tilt in Morgantown, and kind of the, I don't know, I think it's interesting when you look at the tie-ins, I say the birthplace of like the new era game, so to speak. This was really the found moment of the first team that would go bowling for Kansas in well over 10 years. Obviously, this wasn't like the kickstart moment. I'd probably look back to like the Texas win in Lance Leipold's first year in 2021. That was kind of the kickstart moment in those final 3 games of that season. But it was this game, which was the second game of the season for KU at that point in time in 2022, that was more of like, if that was the foundation, the Texas win, this was like the start of the building of the house. This was the, hey, we have arrived. We are good enough to make a bowl game. We won on the road in overtime against this opponent. You get Jalon Daniels running around, screaming on the field afterwards, shouting out new era and everything like that. And that's what this was. This was the new era football game. And Kansas, really both these teams are coming into this one thinking we want a new era for this season. And that's maybe what this game can represent for Kansas, because if you win this game, the record they're going to be thinking about is 1-0. It's not going to be 2-2. Right? At this point, the 1-2 is gone. It's in the past. Obviously, the overall record does matter when you're trying to get into a bowl game and some of this other stuff. But from what Kansas's goals are from the beginning of the season, all they're focused on now is conference play. And obviously, the last 2 games indicate that they're going to have struggles with some of these conference opponents, barring some real turnaround in some ways. But if this is a fresh start, and if we go back to with Jalon Daniels, what is going on? Why is he struggling? You know, if you want to think a good portion of it is just a mental block or a lack of confidence or something, this or that, could playing here, being at a spot where you had some great memories and have an opportunity to rekindle that. You know, it's like being in a safe space for Jalon Daniels here, going to Morgantown where you had that great memory. Is that going to be enough to help boost his confidence and help him look like the guy that we were accustomed to coming into this season before really these last 2 games in the start of this season? And for both teams, you're trying to get back 500 overall. Both teams go 1-2 in the non-con. Both teams starting off looking to restart the season after 9-win seasons a season ago. Now, as far as the West Virginia scouting report, they averaged last season, one of the best running offenses in the conference. And this year, they're averaging almost 32 points per game. That's middle of the pack in the league on offense. They are just 13th of the 16 teams in the league in yards per play at 6.0 yards per play. Kansas is actually ahead of them in yards per play at 8th, even despite the passing struggles right now. West Virginia ranks 31st in pass blocking, 21st in run blocking, according to PFF. Both KU and West Virginia top 35 in both pass blocking and run blocking. So you have 2 good offensive line units here. And that specifically for West Virginia helps them average nearly 200 yards rushing per game. They are just 75th on Pro Football Focus in receiving grade. They don't have a receiver who's over 100 yards statistically through 3 games. So pretty simple when you're talking about stopping West Virginia. Not easy, but it is simple. The idea, stop the run. Now, easier said than done. Defensively, West Virginia has not been very good on this end of the football field. They're second to last in the Big 12. They're allowing 28.7 points per game. Obviously, they played Penn State early in the season. That's going to hurt a lot of teams' point per game averages, right? Like if every team in the Big 12 would have played Penn State, it's going to be harder to give up 14 points in that game. They also played Pitt last week, and Pitt started running this new offense, which is just like this up-tempo, super aggressive passing offense this year that they brought in to the offseason for them. They brought in a transfer portal QB and stuff, so that's a good offense. So point being, even though they are second to last in points allowed per game, I do think they're better than that. Now, do I think they're a good Big 12 defense, an upper half Big 12 defense? No, I still don't think that. But they are 14th of 16th in the Big 12 in yards allowed per play. Kansas is actually 4th in yards allowed per play early in the season. And, they're going to play some good offenses along the way, and this will certainly be one of them with their running ability. But, UNLV on paper is a good offense. We'll see what Illinois has coming up on Friday against Nebraska and some of these teams. Right now, West Virginia, the thing they're doing best on defense, they're 5th in tackling grade on defense. This is a team that's not going to let you get a lot of yards after contact. At least that hasn't been the case early this season. They are just 99th in pass rush grade. They're 128th in coverage grade. And that right there is the big one. They're giving up 9.7 yards per pass. That is over a yard more than next worst in the Big 12, where they rank dead last. They give up a lot in the air. They give up a lot of big plays in the air. If ever there were a game for Jalon Daniels to get going, it would be against this pass defense in West Virginia, because they have not been very good this year and they're giving up big plays. And those are both areas that Kansas and Jalon Daniels have struggled so far this season. So I guess the flip side to that is if there are more struggles for KU in both of those areas, that would really not be good against this West Virginia defense. But this is about the best opportunity when you look at the positive mental side of it, of playing here again. When you look at the defense you're going up against, this is probably the worst passing defense you played since Lindenwood. Can you take advantage of it if you're Kansas? Obviously, this is a very, very important game, really, for both teams. But this is Locked on Jayhawks, so we're going to talk about KU. This is an opportunity for a new season. This is an opportunity to start 1-0 in the new season and build some confidence. This is an opportunity to, and not just that, like if you win your first conference game and it's on the road, and then you got a home game after that, you're going to be feeling a lot better about where things are possibly going. You could also argue this is one of the tougher games remaining on the schedule for KU. Now, it almost feels like a lot of the teams on the schedule for KU, like maybe save Kansas State and Iowa State. I don't know. Maybe there's another one or two. Arizona State's look good that you would take out of there. Kind of an amorphous blob. Like how much of a difference is the game at Baylor versus the game at BYU? Like those are similar difficulties, right? How much more difficult are those than like this game, for instance, right? Again, similar difficulties. So it's hard to entirely say, but that does present its challenge, because it's like, oh, this is, this gigantic moment for you, not just for this season to try to salvage it, but as a program and where you go from here. And it's unfortunate that one of your tougher games is the one that you need to win. But that's kind of the hole you dug yourself in based on what happened the last few weeks in the non-conference. And so if you're Kansas, it's not just the importance of trying to start over and gaining some confidence. It's the idea that if you lose this game and you're 1-3, at some point, even though a lot of the other stuff, the worry is that, okay, you finally figure out Jalon Daniels, you finally figure out the passing game, but by the point you figure those things out, now a different unit or a different thing that you've been doing well at has stopped happening because, there's just a little bit of quit there. And I don't think there'll be quit for KU. I think that's something that Lance Leipold does with culture and everything in this program. They're going to keep hacking away at it. But, that is always the worry, especially nowadays where after 4 games, players can redshirt and we see them pull out and then transfer from the school. And I don't know who would be candidates to do that. And I don't know if anybody would even think about doing that. But obviously, it certainly is a scare for anybody who starts poorly on the season. And so you want to just avoid that altogether if you're KU. And same goes for West Virginia. So these are 2 desperate teams going at it. One of them is going to walk away saying, hey, we got a new season. We got newfound life. The other one is going to say, uh-oh, this could be a long season. All right, let's get to our matchups of the game. This is Locked on Jayhawks. This episode of the show is brought to you by With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Thank you to everydayers tuning in to each and every episode. Thank you to you for listening. Make Locked On College Football your second listen today. We'll get to our Hawks to soar, maybe a little pick a prop here to finish up shortly. Here is matchups of the game, though, between Kansas and West Virginia. First down, Kansas defensive line against the West Virginia offensive line and running game. All 5 of West Virginia's starting offensive linemen rank top 100 nationally for all offensive line positions on Pro Football Focus. So it's not they're all top 100, tackles and guards. That wouldn't be like that impressive. It's for every offensive lineman. And that means they're balanced. They've got some stalwarts at tackle. It's a really good unit. They mesh well. They've got a gritty running quarterback who takes care of the football. They've got a lightning and thunder combo in the backfield with a gigantic back in Donaldson and a super quick lightning bug back in Jaheim White. It's a very good running game. And for KU to perform well and not get run all over defensively, the defensive line needs to hold their own against that really good West Virginia offensive line. You need to allow your linebacking core to make plays. So far, so good. Kansas has done a really good job at doing this season. They've allowed just 3.1 yards per carry. This is a new test. Really the lone exception, though, I would say so far for KU defensively, where it's like, you've done a really good job against the run. The one area you didn't do great at was against Matt Sluka, the quarterback for UNLV. That is a bit scary in this one because Garrett Green is a really good runner at quarterback for them. Little bit of a different runner than Sluka. I mean, he does have some grit and determination similar to Sluka. I think Sluka an even bigger runner, but Green might have a little bit even more speed. I don't know. I was actually impressed by how fast Sluka was. So either way, that could be a little bit scary in this one. I will say, though, as good as Donaldson has been really in his career, but this year as well for West Virginia, KU did see a version of him in Keegan Fagan, the giant running back from Illinois, who was like 6'3", 250. Donaldson's like 6'2", 240. And KU performed well against Fagan. You've sort of seen a version of White in Jacob DeJesus, who's kind of that scat back type and maybe some quick running backs there. But they haven't faced a team who has all of those elements all at once. And so that's going to be its challenge on its own. But if you can neutralize the West Virginia's offensive line, the strength of their offense, and not get bullied like what Penn State did, albeit, maybe don't have all the 4 and 5 stars Penn State had, but still, Penn State held West Virginia to 85 yards rushing, 2.3 per run. I'd probably even take what Pitt gave up. They gave up 4.2 yards per carry. If you gave up that, maybe a little bit on the higher end, but that's good enough that you can win the game. I guess if the passing game and the offense doesn't get going, then that number is going to have to actually be lower than that, but that'll kind of all depend on that. All right, second down, running against the loaded box for the KU offense. This is what I would imagine West Virginia is going to do. They've seen it on tape. Jalon Daniels is struggling right now. The KU passing game is struggling right now. And while West Virginia is only 129th in EPA per dropback defensively, and they're thinking, hey, we got some problems on the back end, they're probably going, okay, this could be the elixir to that. Kansas ranks outside of the top 100 in EPA per dropback offensively. And it's impossible to know what you're going to get from Jalon Daniels in this game. Now, for what it's worth, if you told me that, Jalon Daniels plays decent in this game, I think you should be golden because West Virginia's pass defense has not been good so far. The Kansas passing offense, though, hasn't been either. So you might have to run into some loaded boxes and figure out how to run into those loaded boxes. Kansas currently is 34th in EPA per rush. West Virginia is 32nd. So it's actually been, it's kind of strength on strength, weakness on weakness with the KU offense versus the West Virginia defense. Can Devin Neal still get going? What's the status of Daniel Hishaw going to be into this game? That could be huge. Will Savion Morrison or one of the freshmen get any work for KU? Will they run Jalon Daniels more? Because if he's not doing it with his arm, do you just say, hey, we're just going to let him run more and try to move the offense that way. I think that'll be very interesting for how KU handles a West Virginia defense. It's probably going to put more numbers against the run to stop KU from doing that and force Jalon to pass or KU to get creative with how they're running the football. Third down, keep West Virginia bad on third downs. The Mountaineers are just 8 of 24 this season on third down. That's 23.5%. That is bad. That is the worst in the Big 12 so far. The KU defense, they're middle of the pack so far in third down defense. But the good news, KU sits at 36th in the nation in early downs EPA. That basically means they're doing good work on those plays. That is getting opponents to third downs and not just a 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 3, but 3rd and medium or 3rd and long. KU would probably like to be better than 85th in terms of success rate on 3rd and 4th down combined, but I do think, a good chunk of those are plays where the opposition just made good plays, right? Matthew Sluka breaking a bunch of tackles. Luke Altmaier throwing a perfect pass and getting a really good grab from, Franklin or something like that, right? So some of those, and we'll see if they wear themselves out as the season goes on. But the thing that scares me most on those third downs is after what we saw last week, the QB runs by Garrett Green. Garrett Green is not a huge passer. 53% completion percentage last year, 59% this year. Now, he takes care of the football. He doesn't turn it over. He'll hit some deep balls. He'll hit his short passes, and then he'll run the football well. But that's the thing. Like, KU didn't get killed in the passing game last year against Sluka. I expect it to be kind of the same with Green. He'll hit a couple big passes, but I think for the most part, if you can stop his running game, which you couldn't for Sluka, specifically in the fourth quarter, maybe that's the difference if your offense isn't getting it together, that the defense could play well, but those couple of plays could be backbreakers for you unless you can slow them down. Fourth down, Kansas avoiding offensive turnovers against the West Virginia defense. This is kind of the movable force versus the stoppable object going at it here. Because West Virginia, they haven't been forcing turnovers. KU been giving them out like lollipops at a carnival. I don't even know. I just made that saying up and then I already hate it. But nonetheless, the West Virginia defense has 0 interceptions so far this year. 0. KU has 6 interceptions. Right now, that is double the second most, or the team with the second most interceptions thrown in the Big 12. They have 3 more interceptions than second already. But West Virginia has 0 as a defense. Something's got to give there. So far, just 1 turnover forced for West Virginia. It was a fumble recovered in 2024, but Kansas has their billion turnovers early. They also have a fumble in addition to their 6 interceptions thrown. Again, nobody has more than 3. You can't expect to win on the road in conference games that are coin flips by losing the turnover battle, especially if you're KU. Like, I don't know how easy it'll be for the defense for Kansas to grab one. That was something Brian Borland mentioned earlier this week, that they're not doing a good enough job at it. West Virginia's run heavy, so that makes it a little bit tougher to get interceptions, and Green hasn't thrown a ton. He has 6 since the start of last year. Maybe you can't really expect that. Then again, maybe you do a better job of stripping the ball out if they're going to be running more. I don't know. But the best bet is just to say, hey, let's just not have any ourselves. And if we get any the other way, it's found money. Player matchup for the game, Cobee Bryant versus Treylon Ray. We mentioned the good vibes for Jalon Daniels, at least hopefully coming into this game, into this stadium where he had that big performance. That can help him have a little bit of a pick-me-up with some positive flashbacks and deja vu while being there? Well, you know who else could have some positive flashbacks from being there? That'd be one Cobee Bryant, because Cobee Bryant was the one who sealed the game against West Virginia last go-around. So Treylon Ray, I mentioned, no receiver has over 100 yards so far through 3 games for West Virginia. Ray is the closest, but he does have a 70 PFF grade. So he's actually, recorded well in maybe more limited snaps because they're running the ball. Maybe it just hasn't had the opportunity. We'll see if Melo's on him. We'll see if Kobe's on him. It'll probably just depend where he lines up and everything like that. But I'm waiting on Cobee to have that big play. Certainly, it's going to be tougher against Green, who, as I've said many times here in this segment, does not give up a lot of interceptions or anything. But yeah, Cobee was the one who had that game-winning pick 6. And if KU can take away Ray, like, it's already not a ton of super high-flying pass catchers on the outside for West Virginia. That would be really their one weapon they can go to on the outside consistently. That would make it even that much more difficult for them, and would probably really open up things for Brian Borland to say, hey, we can throw an extra number up in the box to help stop against this really good running attack that West Virginia possesses. All right, we're going to finish up with Hawks to soar and pick a prop. This is Locked on Jayhawks. This episode of the show is brought to you by eBay Motors. You can go to ebaymotors.com. And passion, drive, and patience, The formula for winning championships is what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the price you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, where we're going to go over some props here coming up in our next segment that you can get. For instance, Devin Neal like minus 250 to score a touchdown. Jalen Daniels over-under passing props is under 200 yards. But right now, we have something a little different for you, too. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3 free-week trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. That is with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. Finishing things up on this episode of Locked On Jayhawks, and don't forget to subscribe to the show. We will have a recap show later Saturday. I'm going to have a busy day Saturday, so the recap show might not come out until later in the night, maybe even Sunday morning. I'll try to get it out as soon as I possibly can, but it's going to kind of be dependent on a tough schedule. But make sure you're subscribed, and then you'll see when it does come up at some point over the weekend. So apologies for being a little flexible there with that one. All right, our Hawks to soar. This is where we pick KU players we think are set up to have a big game. Last week, I thought we did okay with those. Certainly the JB Brown one hit. Well, let's start with the offensive side of the ball. We're going to go with LJ Arnold. So Arnold was not super involved in the offense in week 1 against Lindenwood. He only wound up with 2 catches in the game. And I don't know if that was just game plan wise or, just kind of funneling it to Luke Grimm. He had 4 catches in back-to-back weeks, though, 4 for 44 against Illinois and a touchdown, 4 for 58 against UNLV, and it feels like he's starting to get involved more. When you look at West Virginia's defensive backs, 5 main defensive backs who are out there, 3 of them are rated below a 60 on Pro Football Focus. We talked about their pass defense hasn't been good. 4 of them are below a 65. The one player on their back end who is rated above a 70 is their slot corner, Burks. So slot corner would be covering Luke Grimm. What is the natural progression? Okay, your other big receiver to go to, obviously Quentin Skinner, waiting on a big one there. But is LJ Arnold. And so with West Virginia ranking last in the Big 12 in passing efficiency defense, hopefully good vibes for JD here. I think recent developments there. I would go with either Skinner or Arnold, but I'm going to go with Arnold because we've seen a little bit more in recent weeks from what you can kind of get there. On the defense side of the ball, we're going to go back to the same well we went to last week, JB Brown, because they have a running quarterback, which means more opportunities for, linebacker to come up and thump you. And I thought Brown played a really good game last week. It's going to be a lot of the running game. Okay, that's a lot of action for the linebackers. I could have just switched it to Cornell Wheeler because I think that's the same kind of thing. I could even take like Marvin Grant because, he's going to be up there making plays and doing a little bit of everything. But yeah, I'm just going to go back to my guy with JB Brown. All right, pick a prop here. This has not been going well, and a big reason why is because, when you're struggling offensively, like you're not going to do well in the prop games, right? Like if you bet props on teams whose offenses are not playing well, which Kansas is in the bottom couple of the Big 12 in points per game, there's just going to be less touchdowns. There's less yards to go around, all that sort of stuff. So I don't know, maybe this will be the final time we do this because it is not going well. Anyway, so for our scoop prop, this would be our big one that we really like. We're going to go with Jalen Daniels over 28.5 rushing yards. West Virginia has a really good pass rusher on the outside, but overall they're 99th in pass rush grade on Pro Football Focus. So if KU can kind of stop the one guy, and I also think because of the passing struggles, we do see a little bit more Jalon running the football. So I'm going to go with the over there as they try to manufacture some offense. A couple other interesting ones of note: Daniel Hishaw anytime touchdown is plus 230 on FanDuel. Now that's one where if he doesn't end up playing, because we don't know his status, you just get your money back. But if you end up placing that bet and he plays and he scores a touchdown, That's a lot better odds than you would get if he wouldn't have missed last week's game. Now, the negative is, what if he comes in there and he plays 5 snaps and whatever injury he's going through gets re-aggravated or something, and then he can't come back out there? That's where you kind of get screwed there. Also, this one might be of interest for the sprinkle. Kansas defensive touchdown in honor of the Cobee Bryant pick 6 that happened last time. It's over plus 600 at FanDuel. Garrett Green over 44.5 rushing yards for West Virginia. We saw what a running quarterback could do last week, and that's kind of been a continual thing against Kansas. But our big sprinkle that we're going to go with here, we're going to believe. We're going to believe in Jalon Daniels. Blind faith. I'll probably come back here and be like, why did we do that? But alt passing yards for Jalon Daniels, 250 plus at plus 290. I kind of already regret it, but you know what? I also don't. Go down with the ship. I believe. All right. We will be back for recap, whatever happens, KU West Virginia. Make sure to subscribe to the show, and we'll see you next time with Locked On Jayhawks.